Are you a seller considering selling your home and you want to utilize that as is clause that is actually part of the California residential purchase agreement in general anyways, but you want to make sure that you minimize your risk and that you disclose all information? Well, then this video is for you. Today we are going to be discussing sellers providing inspections prior to securing a buyer to purchase the property. I'm Shemeika Fox, your Santa Cruz real estate expert, and if you find this video helpful, informational, educational, and a little bit entertaining, please hit that like and subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, and every time somebody hits that like and subscribe button, it helps us reach our goal. Okay, let's dive in. So why would sellers provide inspections when selling their home? For a multitude of reasons, actually. So first of all, we live in California where our California residential purchase agreement is an as-is purchase agreement. That means at the time that the offer is written, the home is to be sold in its current present as-is condition. That means that a seller is not obligated or required to fix anything, change anything, upgrade anything, etc., unless it has already been negotiated between the buyer and the seller. It also means, though, that a seller cannot break, damage, change anything with regards to the kitchen. So if a property had a perfectly functioning bathroom with a beautiful vanity and all of a sudden the bathroom sink flooded and ruined the vanity, the seller would be obligated to fix the vanity so that at the time of the transfer of the property, the vanity is in the condition that it was when the buyer wrote the offer. So why would a seller want to provide these inspections? First of all, let's talk about what inspections are typically considered to be a part of a real estate transaction. In general, now every property is different, so you really need to make sure that you lean on your real estate professional. But in general, whether I'm representing a buyer or a seller, my expectation of what I would see or find in the file besides the seller's disclosures would be a home inspection, a pest report. If the property is on public sewer, we would want to see a sewer lateral inspection. If the property is on septic, we would want to see a septic inspection. And if the property is on a well, we would want to see a well inspection. So those are the general inspections that I would want to see, whether I was representing a buyer or a seller in a transaction, to make sure that a buyer had full understanding of the condition of the property. Now, with that said, let's say your home inspector finds that the foundation is failing. I generally will use a home inspection as a roadmap to then bring in additional vendors so that we can find out what the cost to mitigate any major issues is. So if the home inspector determines that the foundation is failing, generally speaking, we'll want to bring in a foundation expert so that we can find out what the cost will be to remediate the issue. With regards to the sewer lateral point of sale ordinance requirement, this ordinance was just implemented in Santa Cruz a few years ago, though it was voted in several years ago. We're just catching up. You know how it is, bureaucracy. The sewer lateral inspection ordinance is a point of sale ordinance, and a seller who is in the city of Santa Cruz or the unincorporated area of Santa Cruz is required to perform a point of sale inspection by a licensed, qualified, and registered plumber to determine whether or not the system passes or fails. Now, one thing that I see quite often when we do sewer lateral inspections is the need for a cleanout. A cleanout must be installed in the sidewalk. If your cleanout is on your property, then you automatically fail. If you have massive root intrusion or your sewer lateral is crack damaged in multiple areas, with a fail like that, you will probably be looking at replacing the entire sewer lateral. If your fail is just because you don't have a clean out in the sidewalk, then installed clean out in the sidewalk would probably suffice to allow you to pass the sewer lateral inspection. Now listen up. You are allowed to negotiate the transfer of responsibility for the sewer lateral point of sale ordinance. If you come to a mutual agreement between the buyer and seller, and the buyer is willing to take on the responsibility to do any required repair work, the buyer must complete any required repair or replacement work within 90 days of the close of escrow. That is your timeline if you're a buyer. Properties that are exempt from the sewer lateral ordinance are properties that were built within the last 20 years, properties that have a past sewer lateral inspection within the last 5 years, or properties that are on a shared system. So properties that are in like a condo townhouse, something like that. With regards to the septic point of sale ordinance, the septic system must be pumped, it must be inspected, and it must pass a flow test, which means the leach lines must absorb a certain amount of liquid within a certain period of time. Now, if the septic system fails the inspection, this could potentially be a very expensive fix, because if your property does not meet the minimum requirements for replacing the current system with a like-kind system, you may be required to install an enhanced engineered system. And those with installation can, generally speaking, and check my prices with a local contractor, but generally speaking, to replace a septic system with an enhanced engineered system, we're looking at between $60,000 and $85,000 is what I've been quoted for the last couple properties that I've looked at with regards to upgrading to an enhanced engineered system. So why would a seller provide inspections up front? A seller will provide inspections up front for multiple reasons. Within the last few years, we went from a market where buyers were writing offers with 17-day contingency periods, and they were getting their own inspections. If they found that there was issues that arose during their inspections, they would either renegotiate or cancel. Our market has become so competitive and so hot in the last few years that we're seeing offers that are written with no contingencies. So a seller providing inspections up front does a couple of things. One, it protects them, right? They're providing all their disclosures that they've filled out as a seller, and then they are also providing inspections so that a buyer can have a nearly complete understanding of the condition of the property that they're purchasing, especially if they're writing a non-contingent offer. Because if they're writing a non-contingent offer and they change their mind for any reason other than new material facts that are disclosed during the escrow period, then a buyer's deposit is liable. Okay, so a seller provides inspections up front because they want to make sure that they give a buyer all the information so that a buyer can have the option or opportunity to write a non-contingent offer. And with regards to a seller, a non-contingent offer is a stronger offer because that shows a seller more certainty that that buyer is actually going to close the escrow. I'm back and it's time for a commercial break. If you're finding this information helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, and every subscription helps us meet that goal. Okay, back to the previously recorded show. The benefits to a seller providing inspections upfront are that they can provide more transparency to a buyer. It also helps in pricing strategy. So if you know that your roof has to be replaced because you've had a home inspection and the home inspector said that the roof looks like it is in disrepair, and I recommend that you have a roofing professional out to the property, and the seller has a roofing professional out to the property, and we receive an estimate for $20,000, we can take that into consideration not only in pricing the property, but also in providing that information to a buyer so that when they make their offer is based on the knowledge that it's going to cost them $20,000 to replace that roof, and we can expect fewer renegotiations during the escrow process. From a seller's perspective, we really want to make sure that the seller feels confident that the buyer will complete the sale, and that the buyer will complete the sale with few to no renegotiations during the escrow process. Also, by providing inspections and estimates up front, you can expect to have a reduced escrow period. So if a buyer is purchasing a property for cash, I think the quickest deal I've ever closed that was cash was 3 days, and all of my seller disclosures and inspections were provided up front. So you can expedite the process of your close of escrow time frame if you provide these inspections up front as a seller. Another thing that I find to be really beneficial by having the seller provide inspections up front is that there's a lot of items that could look daunting or overwhelming to a buyer if they're listed out. Like if there's a plumbing leak, if the electrical GFCIs are not installed in the kitchen, those come up really regularly, those two things. If there is a broken seal on a window, if there is termites, if there is, I don't know, you name it, we can discuss assess prior to putting the house on the market if the seller wants to attack any of the items that were noted in any of the inspections, thus being able to have the home re-inspected and or providing a list to any potential buyers showing all of the items that the seller has already addressed, and those can be checked off the list, which will provide more certainty and security to a buyer who is purchasing the home, understanding that they have received an inspection or inspections and that they've done the following things to mitigate some of the stuff that was noted on the inspections. So those are kind of the perspectives from a seller's point of view, for a seller to provide inspections up front. From a buyer's point of view, I think it also provides a tremendous amount of clarity and transparency. A buyer can really understand the condition of the property before they purchase the property or before they even write an offer. Let's say that as a buyer, you're interested in purchasing a home and that home has a foundation report attached to it and it says that the foundation has failed. I'm using foundation as an example because this can be a really expensive item and not a very fun item to fix or mitigate. So let's say that there is a foundation estimate and it says that the foundation needs to be tuned up. It doesn't need to be replaced, but it needs to be tuned up, and the cost of that's going to be $20,000. A buyer can actually negotiate that up front and say, hey, we love your house, but we're going to have to deal with tuning up the foundation at the cost of $20,000. You can either ask for a reduction of the purchase price as a buyer, or you can ask for a credit towards closing costs. As a buyer, if you are asking for a credit towards closing costs, do make sure that you know what your closing costs are, because if you exceed that credit, let's say that your closing costs are only $10,000 and you've asked for a $20,000 credit, then there is the potential that that extra $10,000 is lost in the wash. So make sure you know what your closing costs are, and if necessary, massage those numbers between the purchase price and your closing costs. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, comment down below and I can try and re-explain it so that it does make more sense. Another benefit for a buyer who is purchasing a home from a seller who has already obtained all of these inspections that we've discussed, a home inspection, a pest report, a well inspection, septic or sewer lateral, is they can use that then as a roadmap. They can still decide if they want to get additional inspections or if they want to hire their own home inspector, but they can utilize what has been provided as a roadmap to decide what vendors they want to bring into the property so that they can have a better concept of what things will be costing. Now, generally speaking, if you're a buyer and you are going to write an offer with contingencies or short contingencies because you have been provided these inspections up front, it would be a really good idea to highlight the items that you want to have inspected and go over each of those items with the appropriate professional so that you can still have a concept of what those things will cost. Home inspections do not provide prices. Pest inspections will provide pricing on the mitigation of wood-destroying pests and organisms. Some will provide an approximate cost should you have to replace like siding or a deck because it has been destroyed by pests or organisms. But generally speaking, inspections, a home inspection, and a pest report will not provide all-inclusive pricing. A septic report, if you find out that it's failed or that it has any issues, they will provide cost for remediation. A sewer lateral will also do the same, and usually a well company who pumps and inspects will tell you what the cost to fix any issues will be, because that is what their company provides, is an inspection and then a service to fix any of the issues that come up during the inspection. So in my opinion, best practices for home sellers are to provide as much information up front. Get your home inspected, get your pest inspection, get your sewer lateral inspection and or your septic inspection. Make sure your well is inspected. Make sure anything that is noted in the home inspection that is considered to be a health and safety code issues are addressed prior to putting your house on the market. If you are able to, of course, there's always the caveat you can sell as is, no problem. But if you are able to address those things, I think it will give a buyer a better sense of wanting to work with you and wanting to purchase purchase your home for maximum dollar and best terms. So the benefits, again, as a seller providing home inspections up front, is that you're providing transparency and you are giving a buyer more certainty so that they can write a more aggressive offer in your favor when you're selling your home. As a buyer, best practices are, if you're comfortable utilizing the inspections that have been provided as a seller, I do think it's okay if the inspections have been done by a reputable company. If it is a company that you've never heard of or that your realtor has never heard of, make sure that you have somebody else come and re-inspect. If it is a company that is a reputable company, you can utilize what's been provided as a roadmap, in my opinion, and bring in other vendors. Or if you really want another inspection, it is, of course, up to the buyer what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. So as you can see, as a home seller, it is beneficial to provide inspections up front so that you can be transparent and concise with the sale of your home so that any able, willing, and buyer can see the exact condition that the home is in prior to them even writing an offer. And if you are a buyer, decide what is most comfortable for you. Some buyers will opt to write a non-contingent offer because they feel that the disclosure package and the reports exemplify a home in the condition that they feel confident in purchasing without contingencies. Or maybe this is what you want to use as a roadmap to decide to bring additional vendors in to determine exactly what the cost will be to remediate any issues. Or if you want your own additional inspections, you by all means can feel free to do that. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm Shemeika Fox, your Santa Cruz real estate expert. And if you have any questions with regards to this video or the Santa Cruz market in general, please feel free to reach out or comment below. We would love to be your realtor of choice when looking to buy or sell in the Santa Cruz area. And if you're looking to buy or sell in any area outside of Santa Cruz, please feel free to fill out the form below, and I would be happy to connect you with another fabulous realtor in your area. Thanks again for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.